Welcome to our Meet the Candidates interview series. We now have Al Swank running for the open seat in downtown Anchorage. Thanks for being here with us.
Thank you.
What makes you the most qualified candidate for this assembly seat?
Very simply, I have close to 50 years of professional experience in all areas involving cities, states, federal government, foreign governments, on and on. And all those areas of my experience and expertise involve every section of government, whether it's the legal department, whether it's the accounting department, whether it's taxation, whether it's the capital projects, capital works, utilities, etc. I performed close to $5 billion of projects around the world. I'm a registered professional engineer in many disciplines, and nobody that's running against me has any such experience or even the years that I possess. And on top of that, the fact that I am familiar with this government. I was born and raised in Anchorage, and I have lived here that entire time period. I'm familiar with prior administrations, prior assemblies. I've had issues in front of all of those organizations historically. I have dealt with the assembly. I know how it operates, and on and on.
If voters agree with you and choose you to represent them for downtown, what's the first action you want to bring forward or first issue you would like to address as an assembly member?
That's a very generalized question, and first we have to clarify a point. As an assembly member, and this is not uncommon, not untypical of asking such generalized questions. It's typically done in political runoffs, etc., when parties are running for political office, etc. But however, no different than our other forms of this government, the state government, federal government, etc. We have multiple assembly members. No particular assembly member can control. He has to work with the other, he or she has to work with the other assembly members, and the assembly takes a vote. We can initiate, an individual assembly member can initiate a particular action or a request, etc. But we have to work with the other assembly members. And that, it's a team. And sometimes it's a separated team, but there are compromises, discussions among them, etc., to try to achieve, to get to a point. So yes, I can propose a particular area or issue that I may want. And so if that is your question, then I will continue.
Yes, that's definitely my question. I'm quite familiar with how the assembly works.
Okay. But a lot of people aren't. A lot of people are not.
So what is something you would like to propose to other members?
It's not so much what I would propose, because there have been different forms of my primary interest areas, I guess is what I'll phrase or say, in the city. My desire is that this city becomes a more balanced structure, a more stable financial structure than what it is. The city is capable of development further, is capable of growth, but it needs an increased tax base. The people of this city support this city, and that is supported by, we have also the issue of, we have matching state funds, some federal funds come in, but predominantly the people and the taxation, plain and simple, and the real property taxation issues. And so we need a tax base. So again, that tax base are all the structures, all the property that exist. However, we have had hindrances, massive hindrances to the development of this city. And again, over my life, I've witnessed it. There have been attempts at trying to improve it, increase it, etc., that have not been successful. And so this is one of my experience areas. I've done development all over the world. I've done development in this state massively throughout the through lower 48 and foreign countries on. But anyway, I'm very familiar with the development of those types of issues in this city. And in the downtown area especially, we have hindrances. When the city was originally incorporated in this city was platted by the federal government as a railroad town. It was incorporated in 1926, and so all the individual lots that you see downtown were already in existence from that date forward. We have had very little change in what's allowed in those areas or the density of the population in those areas since that date until present. So basically, our city's been stagnated. No city can tolerate stagnation. A city has to develop. So I would like to improve, and such issues as height restrictions need to be revised. They have been proposed before. They need to be revised. Densities need to be increased. We have our development plans for the downtown core to increase population densities. Zoning has to go along with that, changes in zoning to enable that density. And also, we cannot develop or increase that density without, again, height, because it's not financially feasible. So that's one of my primary areas.
Okay. I'd like to get your thoughts on the budget the Assembly just passed. Are there areas you think something else should have been done?
I have not reviewed the existing budget that was passed, quite honestly. No.
Okay.
So there I go.
All right. Well, then I will ask you to talk about something you haven't read. Do you support a sales tax? And I know you just talked about taxes. Yeah. So my question is, would you support one as under the tax cap as a way to diversify our base? But it sounds like you're wanting maybe taxes outside the tax cap.
No.
No.
I have very strong governments. It doesn't matter whether it's a city government, a state government. We can take a look. The city government, state government, and federal governments. Look at governments throughout history. Our state is no different. Our state, first, we need to, and it's the easiest thing for the population to realize and associate to. We have a massive financial problem in this state, massive, in the budget in our state. Our state, if you look at ours as an example, a quick comparison, our state budget compared to any other state budget for the amount of population that exists in this state is unmatchable. We have a state budget that is extreme. It has to be cut back. Our state cannot support it. In the good times, it could support it. In the good times, we could do such programs that can be supported by other things other than taxation. The same thing applies to our city. We have now reached financial difficulties. The city is not going to receive the sharing from the state that it had. So, first of all, I am a fiscal conservative. Do I believe in taxing the people beyond their means? Absolutely not. It's not necessary for arbitrary growth. So basically, I totally believe in a tax cap. The city has, as they themselves have admitted, have probably violated some of the taxation limitations that have been imposed, and they weren't even following them. However, and there are current issues before the city in reference to revising that tax cap and fixing it into a more stable structure that can't be deviated from. And I support that. Now, secondly, how can we achieve? Well, as I pointed out before, we need an increased tax base. We do. And that can be through real estate, private properties, etc. Back to your question of sales tax. Would I support a sales tax? I would support a sales tax. It depends upon how that sales tax is organized. As an example, if it's organized during more so towards, we'll say, the summer season, the tourist base that comes in, the great increase, and such issues as that, then yes, that is a supportable tax base that doesn't impact the citizens here as much. Would I also support a generalized sales tax? As long as we're not keeping our city budget or trying to grow our city budget for such issues. We have to first bring back our city the same way as we have to bring back the state into an economically viable structure.
Quickly, I want to ask you about homelessness because I know that's a big problem in your district.
Right.
What grade would you give the Muni on how it's handling the homelessness problem right now?
Homelessness problems as far as a grade to the city. It's been a very political issue in this city. It's crossed over into legal areas. There have been lawsuits over it. And I'm going to not deviate, but I'm going to give a comparison. I have my business, like I've indicated to you before. I've had my own business for close to 50 years now. I have facilities in Washington State. And those facilities in Washington State are halfway between Seattle and Portland, in the two poorest counties in the state. And they have the highest rate of homelessness and also the lowest per capita income in those two particular counties. So it's a very extreme problem to Washington. And overall, say the last 10 years, I have witnessed different transitional issues dealing with homelessness, the extreme homelessness problem within those counties, Washington, et cetera. There is no magical answer. There is not. How is Anchorage dealing with it comparatively? And I'll be quite honestly, is Anchorage doing better than Washington? Yes, hands down. Is it maybe more visible in some areas of Anchorage than it has been? Probably so. But again, it's a difficult problem. Society, rather than government, for a lot of homelessness has the responsibilities that they have deviated from historically. Families, church groups, religious organizations, etc. Is it the responsibility of our government to take care of everybody? No. Is it society's responsibility to assist and to move in the areas that they need to socially and within our moral structure? Yes. Has our society done that? We've deviated away from it. And we've also had changes within our legal system that have basically released a lot of people, some people, as far as with mental illness, etc. We still have a responsibility there. There are also people that choose to be homeless. They want to be homeless. That is their right. But it's not the right of everybody to pay for it if they're choosing. But there is a quantity, there are an area, group, etc., that there is a responsibility both to city and to society. And that's about the best that I can answer in reference to comparing.
Okay, moving on to public safety. The mayor wants to grow the police force another 56 officers in the next fiscal year. Do you think there are ways other than adding police officers that the Muni can address public safety concerns?
When people comment, it's a very common discussion area to throw out in any political race as far as public safety and police. And it's a very common one for this town. The police police officers, whether they be city police officers, state police officers, federal officers, can only do what they can do, as they are mandated and allowed by law, our legal system. They are only a part of the problem in reducing crime, in basically reducing crime. We'll just let it go at that. Simply putting police officers, more police officers on the street does not necessarily reduce crime. We also have the legal system. We have, as far as the prosecutors within the city, what the choices they make to either prosecute, not prosecute, release. We have the statutes, the laws that we have that they have to enforce. That affects it. We also have our jail system, our state jail system, et cetera, that has its limits. What they, everything from parole, early release, parole, et cetera. All of those issues affect crime, not just reducing crime, not just putting more police officers. And in some instances, and to answer your question a little more specifically, in some instances, you can put as many police officers as you want on the streets. Crime won't change. So, do I just arbitrarily agree we should add 50, 60, 100 police officers? No. What I think we should do is have very involved joint talks, joint discussions on where the primary crime efforts are, how best they can be handled, and what I'm referring to is back to the police force, talking with the legal system, talking with the judicial system, talking with the jail system, and how best we can address it, whether it be a drug issue, like our opioid addiction that's going on here, as well as a lot of the lower 48, and on and on. That's what we need to do, and we need to focus our efforts because, again, we only have so much financial resources in all those areas.
Okay, last question for you. The mayor has said he will not allow our police department to round up refugees for immigration service, even under the threat of losing federal funds. Do you agree or disagree with him?
Do I agree or disagree? I agree in, this is the United States. This is the United States of America. We have a constitution, we have our federal legal system, and we have our states. Different politicians have chosen, for different reasons, some legal, some political, to make a stand, to make a position. And again, I'll go back to the state of Washington and the Attorney General in the state of Washington initiating one of the first legal lawsuits against Trump, Mr. Trump, in reference to immigration policies. I believe, number one, in following my government, plain and simple. And so if our mayor wants to deviate, then naturally he has that right. But he is a mayor, and it's really, as far as I'm concerned, should be the people of this city making such a decision rather than an individual mayor.
Okay. Mr. Al Swank, running for the open seat in downtown Anchorage, thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Best of luck.
Yep.